Welcome, 8th grade teachers. We're going to look at some updates that were made to your 8th grade Canvas page this summer and some information that was added for it. So there's a couple of ways that you can get to your 8th grade page. If you're already enrolled in the 8th grade course, then you'll be able to find it here in your courses list, or you might find it on your dashboard if you've already started. If you are not currently enrolled in the 8th grade page, then what you'll want to do is click on the grade level Canvas pages, and then you'll want to click on this self-enroll. You'll go ahead and enroll in the course, and then I need you to send me an email so that and to let me know that you've enrolled in the course, and that way I will change you from being a student to being a teacher in the course so that you have access to all of the materials that are in there and you can upload and download things into your own course. So we're going to go to the 8th grade page. I've changed the format of the page a little bit, and I do want to run through some of the items that are available for you. First, we're going to look at our district assessment information. All the assessments were updated again this summer. There are required assessments and there are optional assessments that are available to you. The required assessments fall at the end of each of our units, with biology being our first section, chemistry the second, once again, and physics the first section. All of the assessments are now 30 questions. There's 29 multiple choice questions and 1 constructed response, and I'll show you the link to the rubric in just a moment for how you'll be scoring that constructed response. These are all high-level security tests, and that's what this H at the end of the title stands for, is high-level security. What that means is that you can see the standards analysis and you can see the amount of points that a student earns, but you cannot see the item analysis. You also do not have the ability to print these particular assessments. So those are our 3 required assessments. We also have 3 optional assessments, and I'm going to come back to these a little bit because these were written to go along with SLO goals. But what I do want to point out to you is that these are low-level assessments, which means that you can see everything that has to do with these particular assessments. You can see the item analysis, you can look at all your results, you can look at the cards for the students where they can see how they did on things. You can print out the test. The only thing that you can't do with the low-level assessments is you can't print them, give them to the student, and let the student take them home. Everything else is okay with those particular assessments. Our teachers went through the item analysis from last year's test, and they created a list of difficult test concepts where they told you what test it was on and then looked at what the concept was that we're struggling with. This is going to be updated a little bit more for you too. It wasn't quite finished, but we do have some information in here for you. The next thing that they did was they went through the current district assessments and they went through how many questions were on each assessment that were from a particular performance objective. And so on here where you see there's decimals on here, it's that a question might address more than one standard, and so they kind of split it out. So that's why you might see some fraction of numbers in here or decimals of numbers. It's because a particular question might have gone with both something like this concept 1, strand 1, concept 2, and then it might also have addressed like a biology standard as well. So you'll be able to see how much emphasis there was on a particular assessment, and also as compared to the Ames blueprint. So here's how much it was on our assessment, and here's how much it is on the Ames test. They also went through and made study guides for each of the different tests. If you use this, if you want to give it to your students electronically and you're going to give them a link to this study guide, please make sure that you download this in Google Docs and that you put it into your own Google Docs, and then you share your link to the handouts. The reason for that is if you share this direct link with your students and they are not signed into their district Google account, then the requests for permission to get into it are all going to go to the person who made that particular study guide, and it's not going to go to you. So please make sure that, one, you remind your kids to be logged into their district Google account, but that also that anytime you use something off of the Canvas page that's a Google link, that you have made your own personal copy of it, and that's what you share with your students. These are the scoring rubrics I was talking about for the individual tests. So you'll be able to see that there's what they should be addressing in there, and then how the points are distributed. So you'll see that all 3 tests are on one page here, or in one particular area. And there's another link to your assessment windows that we saw in the previous video. So we're going to go to the SLO goal here in just a moment, but I want to once again bring back that these are where the pre-skill assessments are in School City. There's other information about the SLO goals that is in Canvas, but this part here is in School City. And when we looked at these rubrics, these scoring rubrics, these particular questions go along with the goals that were set for SLO goals. So if you choose not to use them as SLO goals, which is entirely up to you, you don't have to use them. But please just be aware that that is the skill that's being focused on in biology that will show up on the district assessment as well. So even if you don't use it as an SLO goal, you're going to want to make sure that during biology that you're working on critiques of scientific experiments. And that during chemistry, you're working on data analysis. You want to be working on these skills, whether you use them as SLO goals or not. So we're going to go back to our home page so we can look at the SLO goals. And you can see what I'm talking about on here. So there's a little bit of a background about why these different skills were chosen. And then there's sample goals that are on here. So you would have 100% demonstrating increase in knowledge and mastery in critiquing an experiment as measured by growth and performance on the, and this is where you would put in, so are you going to use the School City test and the practice and the posted, you'll add that language in. Where I challenge you to be very specific and detailed is when you look at the steps that you'll be taking. One of those things that you have to do is say, here's what I'm going to do in order to help my students demonstrate this mastery. Please be very detailed and specific. Please give it a lot of thought about what you're going to be doing to help students become better at, if you choose one of these goals, or whatever your goal happens to be, how are you going to get your students there? Because that's where the actual power in the SLO goal is. That's what stops it from just being a hoop that we jump through, is that we're actually looking at something our kids aren't doing so well on, and it's a skill that we've said is important, and we want to get them to where they can be masters at that, and they can show that they can do something in our classes. So please be very specific. And then as you come through your midpoint, if there's things that aren't working so well, how are you going to change your method to address that it's not quite working with your students? So you can choose, not have to, but can choose to use one of these different skill sets as your SLO goal. Just so you know that they were paired up with specific areas in the curriculum where it seemed to make the most sense. And so the practice and the post will address this particular part of the curriculum, as well as the post that's in that's actually on your district assessment does go along with these particular skill sets. So on the chemistry required district assessment, the constructed response question is about data analysis. And on the physics required assessment, the constructed response is about experimental design. So once again, you're going to want to make sure that you are practicing with these skills with your students, whether you choose this as your SLO or not. But there's materials that are in here for you that you can utilize, and they are actually loaded in as quizzes in Canvas, and you can copy this quiz directly into your course. And if you need help doing that, please contact me and I will walk you through how you can do that. You can look at a preview of what the question is, and you can see that here's what the information is, that this, like the directions for the students, and then here's the prompt for your student. And then when you go to grade it, there's a clickable rubric that's already loaded into this particular quiz that you can use to score this with. The rubric that that clickable rubric is right here, so you can see what the rubrics look like for experimental critique, for the data analysis, and for experimental design. So what this does is it takes that rubric that you'll be using for the district assessment to score, and it breaks it out a little bit more into smaller chunks, and so you can score them on each one of those points that they're required to cover in their question. That's just kind of an overview. If you're interested in using one of these SLO goals and you're not exactly sure what to do, on our Gizmos Day, that'll be coming up, we will have time. I'll be there before, for about half an hour before, and I'll also be there for about half an hour after. So if you're in the morning session and you want to come early, or if you're in the afternoon session and you're going to stay a little bit late, I will be there, not Gizmos, I apologize, Discovery, before and after the Discovery education training. So that way, if you want to talk through or you have some questions about this, please feel free to bring any questions that you might have if you want to use one of these SLO goals, or if you just want to work on the skill and you don't quite understand what's going on with this, please make sure that you ask on those particular days. If you have any other questions, please make sure that you contact me. Otherwise, have a great start to the school year.